This is the Slow Wardrobe. Come and have a look.
Hello, welcome to episode 107 of the Slow Wardrobe podcast. My name is Linda and I'm your host. In this episode, kind of giving it away around me, I'm going to give an overview of everything I knitted in 2023. So it's the 2023 Hall of Fame of Linda's Knits and some crochet. Followed by a Layercake section about the current pre-order, a couple of new colours, dark colours, in the linen shirt, the Layercake linen shirt. But of course, the other colours are also on pre-order, so I'm showing some of those as well, showing you styling ideas, colour combinations, and hopefully inspiring you to play with your Layercake wardrobes and maybe add a shirt. But here we go first with the knitting and crochet overview of 2023. So yes, it actually took quite a while to gather all the pieces. I think I'm still missing one. I can't find it. Somewhere tucked away, probably in a pocket, of everything I knitted and crocheted in 2023. I've got a list, very messy list, that I'm going to try and go through in alphabetical order. I didn't research all the details of every piece. Most of them actually came through the podcast already in previous episodes, but hopefully I'll give you enough detail, and if there's more detail on any of the projects that you want, then just drop me a line and I'll do my best to stay on top of them and respond promptly. So, 2023 started with a project that I haven't actually finished yet. I spoke about it in the last two episodes, I think, already. And it is just here to my right. I'm actually working on it still. I have resumed working on it. And it is the jumper that I knitted in a combination of Art Yarn's 2-ply cashmere ombre. And the lighter stripes are the cashmere ombre. And then the darker stripes are two yarns held together. One is one strand of my Yak Blend 2, and the other one is half a strand of the mohair ombre that Art Yarns does. It's in the same colorway that as the cashmere. And what I did is I split the two threads that make up the 2-ply mohair. And I'm holding one thread of mohair together with my Yak Blend 2 as one set of the stripes, and then I have the 2-ply cashmere ombre as the other stripe. So the jumper actually was very close to finished. I finished all but the cast off of the second sleeve. The second sleeve is kind of hidden behind the mannequin here. I then thought, why did I stop? I should just finish it. I'm so close to it. And now that I've started again, I remember why I kind of stranded. The very wide cuff that I did, where I went in a 2-and-2 rib with the knit stitches in the Yak Blend 2 and mohair combination, and the purl stitches are in the cashmere. It's very slow going. It's very slow going. Of course, it's only small needles and it's very thin yarn, so it's a lot of rows to get something like this, which is about a 4 or 5 inch cuff. And I want something similar in length on the jumper itself. So I'm just working on the front part because I have split them at the side. I've split the edging, so the split is only as high as the border is going to be, and I may do the border slightly shorter in the front and slightly longer in the back, inspired by the jumper that I'm wearing that I'll talk about in a minute or 10. But I'm probably about 3/4 lengths there on the length of the front edge, and then I still have to do the back one, and I also have to recast off my second sleeve because I didn't recognize, only realized once I cast off the other sleeve that I did the cast off, and it's a Kitchener stitch cast off, in using only the cashmere and not the Yak Blend 2. I used both on the other sleeve and it ends up being too bulky, so I need to take that back, re-knit the last two setup rows for the Kitchener cast off, and then cast off in the cashmere only. So I am going to finish this jumper. I'm excited to wear it. It doesn't really look very good on the mannequin because of course she's so much narrower than I am. I fill it out a lot more, but it is still an oversized jumper, which was always my plan. I wanted to make it one of those live-in garments that you can just snuggle into, and it's plenty big enough for that. Photos of that to come when I finally finished it. And I'm still not quite sure what I'm going to do at the neckline. But I will resume that in a future episode and talk about it more, I am sure. So, I had that on the needle still at the start of the year. But I also brought in a Christmas break knit in the shape of the cat vent cowl, which is a cowl, a twisted cowl, knitted in the round and then Kitchener stitched together, so it's a continuous tube but twisted. So just to add some interest, I'll put the details of the cat vent cowl down here. It was an Advent project. It is ideal to use yarns, small quantities of yarn from an Advent calendar because there's so many different colors. So there are, like, I think there's 24 colors in it. I used colors that I had partially left over and partially unused from Jackie Bogg hot butter yarns from the projects that I've been knitted from her last year. I wanted to add a project again this year, but it wasn't to be somehow. Maybe next year another Jackie Bogg colour cardigan probably, or jumper. We'll see how we go. But the cat vent cowl I knitted in the hot butter yarns, which are a DK weight. I think the original was done in a 4-ply, but I'm really pleased with the result. I love the colours. I didn't quite achieve the kind of retro feel that the original cat vent cowl had with the choice of colours that was in there, but I still really like what I ended up with. So just waiting for the dark and cold nights where I can wear this again. I haven't actually worn it yet this autumn. I had to fish it out of my wardrobe to show it to you today. So that was the cat vent cowl, the first finish project of 2023. I then went on a sock knitting kick, and it started with a pair of socks that I knitted for myself. I don't actually know what I've done with my sock blockers. Are there anywhere near? Let me see if I can find them. I think my sock blockers are right next to one of the little shawls that I wanted to show you today that I can't find. They must be somewhere together and somewhere quite near, but I can't spot them, and I'm not going to search for them any longer. Most of these are quite thick socks anyway, so they'll be fine without blockers, I hope. Anyway, the first pair of socks that I knitted was a pair of Regia socks. Regia Stockholm 8-ply is this yarn, knitted on, I think, 3¼ needles. I think they recommend you to knit them on 4 or 5mm, but that would be far too loose in my case. So I knitted them on 3¼ needles, and I did some kind of broken rib on it, which I really like. They are just socks that I wear over the top of a thinner pair of hand knitted socks, and those two pairs worn together I use as house socks as an alternative to slippers, wearing them at home. So that was the first pair that I knitted, and I had another color of this yarn, and I remember asking my husband and the boys, saying, are any of you guys interested in a pair of thick socks out of this bright color? And all three of them went, yay! Wasn't expecting that. So one of the boys lucked out and got a pair of socks in this bright color. His brother never got any this year, actually, I just remember. So this was another ball of the same Regia 8-ply in a brighter color, and I knitted him again with the broken rib. Did exactly the same, they're just bigger because he's got size 11 feet. So pair of socks for him, that was pair number 2. And there was another pair that I then knitted for my husband. And I held 2 strands of sock yarn together in order to achieve this effect, and then did that with different yarns so that I ended up with a pair of stripy socks. Now, the darker stripe is created by using a sock blank, which of course had different colors in it, and it was a sock blank that graduated slowly from darker to lighter. So one of the socks has got darker stripes, and the other these are the darker stripes, and the sock here in front has got the lighter stripes. They're nice and long, just the way husband likes it, and he does exactly the same thing. He wears them on top of a pair of thinner socks as house socks at home. So that was 3 pairs of thick socks knitted on 3¼ needles. But there was some stuff in between, because while I was knitting the socks, I had also started deep stash diving, which was really where those sock yarns came from as well, as a result of moving all of my stash in one room, everything together in one room. That was news for me. I love my little craft room at home. Everything is together, and every now and then I just lock myself away and play with my yarns and get inspired to start new projects. And of course I was going nuts with all of that at the beginning of 2023. So one of the other projects that I finished early on was some Aran yarn that I bought yonks ago, 10-15 years ago, from Wingham Woolworks. I still remember this as if it was last week. Oh, I keep sneezing. Ooh, sorry about that. Oh, sneeze breaks. I bought 6 balls of this Aran yarn for, I think, £2.50 per ball. So I had 600 grams, so I knew it was not going to be a very large cardigan. But I found this lovely pattern. I'll put the details down below. And I knitted this in absolutely no time flat, because of course it's big needles, 5 or 6 millimeter needles. Have I worn it? No, I haven't. It's just living here at the studio. I admire it. Maybe I've worn it 2 afternoons or something when I got cold and didn't have a jumper here, and just quickly threw this on to stay warm working behind the computer. But it hasn't made it into my regular day-to-day wear. That really goes for a lot of the garments that I've made. So with the one that I'm wearing, I am going to make a difference. But anyway, about that more in a minute. I finished this cardigan really quickly. I think it was still February when I finished. Oh, I have to make another break. Blow my nose. Sorry about that. I just am one of these people who goes allergic to their own clothes when I haven't worn them for a while. There you have it. So it took me a while to decide what buttons to put on this, and I only had, I think, 3 of these lovely heart-shaped little ceramic buttons, and those were my favorites to put on this cardigan. But I only had 3, and I obviously needed 5. Along came Wonderwool in April, so this cardigan had been lounging around the studio without any buttons on. Wonderwool came along, and lo and behold, the lady who makes these buttons and who made the 3 buttons that I already had is still selling the same ones in a slightly different color. I think these lighter ones were the ones that I had already, and she now also had them with a slightly darker blue glaze on them, which I loved. So I bought a little set of 3 of the darker ones and was able to finish my cardigan. So win-win. I absolutely love it. I think it's gorgeous. I love the colors. I love the buttons. The shaping on me works really well. I still haven't really worn it. Pigs may fly. So my cardigan. After that, I was struggling, and I never finished it. Never finished the pattern with a knitted version of the crocheted phone pouches. This was one that I did in springtime of a thicker linen yarn for my mum. I'm going to be finishing this over the Christmas break because I promised it to her as a present, so it'll be a lovely present for her birthday in January. I'm going to go see her in January, and she'll finally get her phone pouch, which I crocheted for her last year, or this past year in May, I think it was, during a visit. And I crocheted so ferociously that I gave myself repetitive strain injury in my left thumb. That's gone completely again, but boy, that take a while. Meanwhile, though, I had finally figured out how to do a knitted version of the crocheted phone pouch that works both visually as well as in terms of knitting speed. And have I finished writing out the pattern? No, I have not. And that is the universal fail year in, year out with new designs that I come up with, where I will finish the design, I will wear the new design or not, but I'll finish the whole garment and I never get around to finishing writing up the pattern. And I worked out that it has to do with the kind of mindset and where your mind is at, where your head is at when you do your different types of work. And when it comes to writing patterns, I have to be in the right kind of mindset for a considerable amount of time. And I have found those time slots really difficult to fit in to my days running my business. So the upshot of it is that I come up with new designs, I come up with new ideas. I love the free flow of the creativity that it allows me, but I then do not cross the finishing line when it comes to writing up the pattern for others, for which I apologize. If you've been waiting for me to write up patterns for you this year, I apologize for not doing it. I'm full of good intentions and short of time management skills, really. I don't manage to fit it in somehow. Anyway, back to the list. So, the phone pouch. I then, following this little cardie, I quite like the idea of doing more cardigans. So, I ended up knitting this one in a yarn called Malabrigo Finito. It's a yarn that has been discontinued. And I'm trying to remember, I'll put it down here, the name of the jumper that was the inspiration for this cardigan. And it had to do with the fact that that original jumper has little bobbles around the neckline. And that's really all that jumper and my cardigans have in common with each other. That little bobble neckline inspired me to do a color knit that I wanted to steek and turn into a cardigan. It was only last year that I did my first steek in the first place, and I really enjoyed it, so I wanted to do more. And I had bought some of this yarn, some of the Malabrigo Finito. Let's see if I can liberate my knee from the table here. Yes. I bought these colors, all except for the colorful variegated one in the middle, from a yarn shop in Chicago, in the US, in 2016, I think it was. And I had a couple of hanks of this color, a couple of hanks of that color, and I wanted to use them all in a project together. So I came up with a ratio of stripes that allowed me to use almost all of the yarns. And I had some of the Koigu Mori, which is a 4-ply yarn that is a blend, I think it's a 50-50 blend of silk and merino wool, and it was my favorite color of Koigu Mori. I had like 1.5 skeins left, about 75 grams left of that, so I worked that into my stripes and I'm really, really pleased with the result. So it's a short cardigan, 3/4 length sleeves, steeked, and then the steek has been hidden with a nice colourful ribbon from Textile Garden. The buttons are little Dorset buttons that I made using the same Koigu yarn again. So I finished this cardigan, absolutely loved it. I actually have worn it, and I was really inspired to knit more with this yarn, having loved it so much. But it is a discontinued yarn, so I scoured the interwebs and found a couple more colours that I just bought whatever I could get in the yarn from the UK, and I ended up with a different combination of colours. Did the same thing again, ended up creating a combination of colours that used up as evenly as possible the different colours that I had bought, and I wanted to feature the little baubles in a different way. I wanted to feature them more prominently. Of course, I've got baubles again around the edge here, and I've got baubles in one colour, and then the ribbing in a variegated colour, and I repeated that by putting the variegated yarn in the middle of my stripe and made little circles, knitted little circles in pearl stitches to create that bauble effect without them standing proud of the work. And therefore I've got a bauble idea all through the cardigan. Got it again with did the baubles again at the bottom with the ribbing, and on the sleeves and on the cardigan, and then brought the baubles back with the little buttons, again new Dorset buttons, which I placed such that they would be in line with the stripes and the baubles on the stripes, as you can see. And again, really pleased with the result. I actually wore this one more than this. In terms of fit, they're very similar, but I think maybe these sleeves are longer, maybe a bit. Yeah, these may be long sleeves. So it hasn't really had much of a look in. Shame really, because it fits me well, it looks good, it just doesn't seem to get much of a look in. So 2 of those cardigans knitted in Malabrigo Finito. We're still in the first half of the year. We're still only in April-May period, and I kept knitting socks following the successful completion of these socks for my husband earlier in the year. He said, well, there are these diagonal socks that you knitted for me years ago, and I have mended those socks so many times because those were his favorites. And it's a pattern called Skew. It's a free pattern on knitty.com, and it's a pattern where you end up increasing on one side and decreasing on the other side with your knitting. So you end up with a diagonal piece of knitting, and you do the increases and decreases on the side of your foot. So you end up with these diagonal panels, and then there's a very ingenious way of working a heel into the pattern. So I knitted this pair, which I did with a yarn from Fiber Space, a sparkly sock yarn in the colors called Crayons 2. Again, like 10-15 years ago that I bought this yarn. So that again was Deep Stash, which I unearthed when I moved all my yarns into one room. So I had knitted those, and then immediately went on to knit him another pair just to be done with it for a while, because somehow, although it's a very interesting knit, these Skew socks, I don't enjoy knitting them. They are a bit chore-like. They are not mindless knitting like normal socks are. It's more of a project, and when I'm knitting socks, I prefer them to just be mindless, apparently. So this is the other pair that I knitted. If I have the details of what yarn that is, I will put it down below. I'm not sure, was this a sock blank? I don't think so. But anyway, this is the second pair of Skew socks that I knitted for him in spring and he's been wearing them with much pleasure, as you can see. They're clean, but they have been worn a lot this year. So after that, where am I on my list? My very, very messy list. Yes, after finishing the second cardigan in May, this one, I then started a summer project. Manage the knee again. Just the table leg is in the way. Okay, so I started a new project in a linen and cotton blend that is like a 4-ply, so it's a bit heavier than the 3-ply linen Layercake yarn that I sell. And again, I'll put the name down below because I don't remember it by heart, but it was going to be, again, a roomy, loose, interesting looking in terms of construction, top with sleeves, potentially with a hood. And so far, I'm not pleased with the fit. I don't think it's big enough on me. It's a little bit too fitted around my tummy and hips, and that's just the area where I don't want the emphasis to be, regardless of what I'm wearing. I want it to flow freely over that area, and it doesn't. So I thought, yeah, I'm not pleased with it. The proportions aren't right for me. I may end up finishing it for someone else, or I will pull it back and work something else up. I haven't decided yet. There were some people saying, no, just finish it or keep going with it. I haven't quite decided yet. And so for now, I haven't touched it anymore. The stitches are all on a cable stitch holder, and I'll decide in the future. So that was a bit of a project fail with no solution yet. So that was June. The Tanke top. That's what it's called. Hopefully you've already shown the details below. Then in July, I went on this kick of little neckerchiefs and little shawlettes, and this was again a result of my stash diving at home with my new craft room and yarns that I had lined up that I wanted to do something with. And the first one that I knitted, I actually had it on show here. Is it still, did it fall down or something? I had it on show on this mannequin for ages. And then very recently I took it off her, and I don't know what I've done with it. Anyway, I can show you the second one and the third one, which are similar. Actually, the third one is the most similar in shape to the first one. What did I knit them out of? It was one very thin strand of silk held together with, what did I hold that first one together with? Yes, it was a camel and silk blend by Cephalopod yarns. That it's a yarn that has been a brand that is a dyer that is no longer dyeing, an American dyer who's no longer dyeing. She stopped dyeing years ago already, and I bought some of her yarns at Rhinebeck one year. Must be about 8 or 9 years ago by now. So I used a strand of her camel silk 4-ply held together with a fine hand-dyed silk by Fiber Spades and knitted up this. It's more like a recipe than a pattern of a kind of skew-shaped little shawlette. You start with a couple of stitches, then you increase on one side and decrease on the other side. So you're basically knitting in this direction. That's your start, and you're knitting up and up and up, decreasing here, increasing there. And then at some point, which is this point, you change how you work the stitches, and as a result of that changed direction, you end up with a crescent shape. So that's the whole thing in total. This was the third one I did. It's got a tiny little tassel at both ends. And this again was a very fine silk held together with a strand of the single ply cashmere that Art Yarns do. And you can't, there is no retailer here in the UK that sells the single ply cashmere by Art Yarns, but every now and then it pops up on eBay, and I bought this one hank, 50 gram of this baby pink single ply cashmere, gorgeous. So of course I wanted to make a little project of it, and then because I had this beautiful soft, again dyed by Jenny from Fiber Spades silk, I thought I'm going to hold those two together. However, I had different amounts of silk and cashmere in terms of length, and because of that I end up with some stripes here where I hold together two strands of the silk for the darker stripes. No, I hold together one strand of the cashmere with a strand of silk like I've been knitting here, but because I have some more cashmere, I have some stripes in here that are just cashmere. So I did that until my blend was all used up, and then I have a little bit of just cashmere as a wider stripe at the end. I hope they're visible. But it was a way to use up all the yarn and make this as big as possible and have enough length to be able to go around my neck twice. Now these I wear a lot. I throw them on whenever, wherever. I think that they make a really nice little statement, but they're also really nice and warm. So I wear them a lot here at the studio or when I go out. So this was number 3. Number 1 is impossible to find. By now, hopefully I've shown you a picture of it. And then in between, there was number 2, which is this one. This was a Bilum, the Hungarian brand Bilum, who do beautiful, they're like these balls, which when you put them on the side, cakes of yarn, and they go from one color to another very gradually in the space of in the course of 100 grams. So this particular yarn went from this beautiful yellowy greeny chartreuse very gradually to a neutral, almost undyed looking, and then to a medium lilac. So from chartreuse via natural to lilac. And I had a little cone from Texair yarns of a wild silk with colored nuts in it, and again was very thin. So I've held that together with the Bilum yarn, and because this is 100 grams of yarn rather than 50, which were the little hanks of cashmere, this is 100 grams, so I had more yarn. I think it's like 500 or 600 meters rather than 300 or 400. So I have a bigger shawl, and I did something else here. I wanted to create an area that looked lacy, but not with beautiful lace stitches, but that looked like ladders. So my knitting direction, of course, at this point is in this direction. Maybe I'll turn it around to show it a little bit better. Like that. I'm knitting in this direction. Bottom up. So what I've done here in these different heights and interspersed at different places, try to be irregular as I could both in height as well as width. So it was not spaced regularly, is end up casting off a stitch and doing a yarn over. So if I then follow the stitch that yarn over makes all the way up and I drop that stitch, it won't run any further than the yarn over, because the stitch that yarn over replaces was cast off properly, so it can't run any longer than that. So I've done them where I ran that stitch all the way up to the edge, but I've also done them where I started that ladder and then here caught it again and then knitted further up. So again, you do the same thing, just make that yarn over and then knit that further up. So I've got this very irregular set of deconstructed lace, for want of a better description. This is another example of a shawl, bigger and than the other ones that I've worn. And because it's big, and because of that long, gradual crescent shape, you can really just work it around your neck, not have to worry about whether it's sitting straight. Just play with the colors, play with the ends, pull out different bits depending on what you want to make visible, and wearing this a lot. So these shallow crescents, there are lots of patterns for them around. I can really recommend them, and they're a wonderful way to use up relatively small amounts of yarn in very pretty colors, especially if they're precious yarns. So that was 3 in total of the little shawlettes, and there's one that I'm still working on. I started it and then kind of abandoned it. I found it back just a week ago or so, and I've started working on it again. I'm showing this a little bit out of sync in terms of timing in the year, but it doesn't matter. I did start it around the same time that I was knitting all the others in the summer. And this one, again, same recipe. This is another one of the Bilum yarns. This one is going from a salmon color to, I think it's purple ultimately. And again, I mixed this together, I held it together with a variegated silk, thin silk by Fiber Spades. And this, in this case, the silk is like orange and pinks and reds and burgundy. It's beautiful, a little bit in the direction of brownish kind of burgundy, but it stays in the red spectrum, and therefore I thought it would look really nice held together with this particular Bilum yarn. So you can just see that I've gone from the salmony color to the pink, and now I'm heading into the mauvey purple. And I can't quite remember what's in the center because I hand wound this ball, and in a way that I can't really look at the center. It's nicely wound, but the little holes here are not big enough to really look. So it's really fun to see what color emerges. And because it's so long ago that I wound the ball, I don't quite remember. I think it's going to a dark purple, but I'm not 100% sure. So I've resurrected this project, and this is my mindless at night when I can't bring up the energy to work on this edge here. I grab this at TV knitting. In one of my beautiful little Trava and wool project bags that I bought from Susanna, I think at Unravel a couple of years ago. If you watch these regularly, you'll know that I recently got some more stock of bags that Susanna made for me. I don't think they're all gone yet. I think there are 2 or 3 left. So if you're interested, have a look at the project bags on the website. Now, where are we? Yes. After my kick of shawlettes, I started crocheting, and that was in August. I was grabbed by a podcast of a Dutch lady called Sarah, and her podcast and her channel is called It Is a Sarah, and she podcasts in both, or videocasts both in Dutch and in English. My goodness, that's dedication for you. So I started watching the Dutch version of her her videos, just because it's lovely to just hear Dutch every now and then, because of course I never do in this country unless I'm FaceTiming with my mum. But I started watching her episodes and was really enjoying them, and was inspired by a pattern that is a free pattern on Ravelry that uses a combination of crocheted granny squares and then knitted edges and button bands and things like that. Again, I'll put the details down here. And Sarah had made her own version of the cardigan and was working on a second one with lots of different colors. I loved the idea and I immediately wanted to do the same. So I started crocheting squares like nobody's business. So these were all separate little squares, and then you crochet them together with one central color, which in this case is this really dark gray, almost black color. I used a combination of different 4-ply yarns. I won't go into all the detail of that now because this section is getting too long already. So I then crocheted them together and I knitted these these triangles to come up with a nice border, and then just allowed the border to roll. It's got a couple of rows of ribbing before I do my favorite Kitchener cast off, but because it's only a couple of rows of ribbing, it still rolls, which is exactly what I wanted. Same here. I've got a knitted section just in stocking stitch and then have a rolly edge along the neckline, and you can see it peeping out here a little bit. The whole thing is lined with silk. This was not my original intention, but the yarn that I have knitted, crocheted my squares together with has got either it's 100% of alpaca or it's got a percentage of alpaca, I don't remember, but it's got some guard hairs in it, and that is enough to make it itchy on me. I'm not that sensitive to itchy yarns, but this particular yarn I am, and I wanted to be able to wear this jumper over the top of just a play suit with nothing else underneath. So I came up with the idea of lining it with a sand washed silk that is more than 30 years old. I bought it before I moved to this country and I still had it. I never knew what to do with it, and then realized that in terms of color it goes so well with the color families in this jumper. So the whole thing is neatly lined and then just hand stitched in at the edges. And of course the jumper, because of its weight, it sags in different directions. So sometimes it kind of blouses and hangs over the top of the silk lining. I don't mind that. I like that it does different things and it creates this kind of roundish shape. Shorter in the front, longer in the back. Very happy with the result. And I've actually started wearing this. So good one. So I started this in August and I ended it, I think, towards the end of September, which was really good timing because, of course, when October came along, I was still working on, I'd started working on this last neckerchief, which I hadn't finished yet, and I'd also started working on a colourful little scarf. Sorry, there's a very loud bus outside idling to wait until it can pull up again. There it goes. I'd also started working on, I had bought the pattern of the Scout shawl, and then there was a Scout mini as well, a smaller version. And then, because of my whole neckerchief kick, I thought, what if I do a Scout mini? And I then, instead of knitting it with 4-ply yarns, I knit it with lace. And I was rearranging yarns at the studio and realized that I had 5 or 6 colors of the beautiful Queen Anne's lace yarn, which was a yarn that I used to carry that Anne from Artisan Yarns, sadly no longer with us, used to dye and sell to me. So these are the colors that I think there's one other color, a purple, that I decided not to use, but these are the colors that I had some stock left of, and I have knitted my own Scout Mini, or Mini Scout. And it's long enough to go around my neck twice, but I can also just wear it like this and tie it and wear it like a bit of an embellishment of whatever outfit I'm wearing. So I'm really pleased with that. I only finished this at the beginning of November. It was hibernating for about a month because, of course, October came along, and with October comes the annual West Knits Mystery Knit Along, and I decided to jump into that again this year and participate. Last year I had, no, it's not here. Last year I had participated as well, and I had knitted the whole shawl in just linen, just the Layercake linen, and one of my sample knitters had knitted it in 4-ply, so I have both the 4-ply version and the linen version, so you can see how much a project shrinks if you knit it in a 3-ply on smaller needles. So this year I thought I'm going to try and knit it on 2 yarns held together, one being my linen and then a second yarn. And of course there is Fiber Space Cumulus, which is a silk and alpaca blend that is lovely and soft, and I've always wanted to do a project that combines those 2 yarns. So I looked at my Cumulus stock, didn't want to buy any new for it, just wanted to see which colors I had in stock that I also have in a matching color in the linen. So rather than going for a variegated effect, I wanted them to be the same. These are the colors that I ended up with. They were not the only ones. I had 1 or 2 others, but these were the ones that I really liked. And this is what my Geo Gradient shawl ends up looking like now. I've just had it crumpled up for a bit, so it's not looking its absolute best, but you get a good idea of what it looks like. It's got a huge square, big granny square in the center that is crocheted, and then the rest of it is all knitted. And because it's got sections, 2 sections, both section 3 and 4, section 3 being on the wings here and section 4 going around the bottom, that has big slip stitches, you get sections where, or areas where you have the yarn being carried in front of the work. And that strand of linen held together with a strand of Cumulus is making magic. The linen, of course, gives a lot of structure to and some weight to the project, whereas the Cumulus is very airy and very loose and very poofy. So when you knit that on its own, it's completely weightless. And then you get the grounding and the weight of the linen, and together, oh my goodness, they almost look and feel slightly felted. The fabric is stupendous. I love it, and I now want a jumper of Cumulus held together with linen. Maybe one of Junko Okamoto's designs. Maybe I'll get going on it in the Christmas break. We'll have to see. But modifications. So I did the whole center section in crochet, and I also did something different at the edge. So rather than doing this last section of slipped stitches in the white and then doing an I-cord edging, which is what the pattern calls for, I didn't like the idea that I've got these beautiful drop shapes in this last section. I've got these beautiful lozenge drop shapes, and then I would cut off the bottom part of that drop shape by putting an I-cord edge on. So I thought, well, how can I make lozenge shapes in this last section of white? And what I did is I did little short rows for each little section and then cast off, and then another couple of short rows and casting off. So I end up with a little shark tooth edge, as it were, They curl up a little bit because of course they are in stocking stitch, and I just throw this shawl around, but I quite like the idea that it curls a little bit when you're wearing it. That looks really effective. Let me put it on to hopefully show that off a little bit, where you can see when I've got it over my shoulders, you can see those edges stick up a little bit. They're almost like eyelashes. I love that idea. I've worn this a lot. It is heavenly soft on the skin, but there's this substance that the linen brings that, again, together, I love them. So that was my October knit. And then at the end of October, beginning of November, I went away for a week's break, and I brought a bunch of different projects to finish. This one and my Scout Mini, for example, I was working on while we were away. I had also, just before we left, applied to be a test knitter for Isabel Kramer, who was asking for test knitters for a jumper that she was doing for the Christmas season, and it's the jumper that I'm wearing because I managed to apply for that test knit on time. And 2 days after we left home, while we were away for our week in the Scottish borders, I got an email saying that I was in and I was one of the test knitters. Of course, it meant that I could not start my test knit until we got back from our week away, so I was a week late. But it also meant that I had time to decide what yarn I wanted to knit with and order the yarn online, have it sent home, and have it waiting for me when we got home. So this is the You'll Do jumper, You'll Do pullover by Isabel Kramer, and I've knitted it in one of my all-time favorite yarns, Biche et Bûche Le Petit Lambswool, in a blue-green color. I think it's called dark blue-green, and the contrast, the yoke, is in grey beige, and I'm really pleased with the result. I made a couple of smallish modifications, which is all to do with the edges and the ribbing. There's just supposed to be on both the sleeves and the body just below 2 inches of 1x1 ribbing. Instead, I went for a longer rib, both on the sleeves and on the body. I'll stand up to show you what I did on the body again. I split the edging, went for a slightly shorter ribbing on the front, about 4 inches, and then 5 or 6 inches in the back. And these splits are not quite on the side seam, they're slightly in front of the side seam. I've slightly overlapped them, and I gave them I-cord edges so they're nice and finished and they stay nice and flat, they don't curl and curve up. Then did a similar thing on the sleeve, so I've got a really long edging on the sleeve, split it as well, and again made a little overlap. And then I thought, you know what, because there's no other color work anywhere else on the jumper, I could Swiss darn that little tree design that is at the top of my yoke and Swiss darn that as an accent right at the top of my my splits. So on the sleeves as well as on the body, I've got 4 little extra trees just as an extra personalized accent, and I think that's something that is such a nice thing to do on a hand knit, where you can personalize it or individualize it by making some little changes and make it really clear that it's quite a unique garment, not just something that you can pick up from anywhere. So I'm really pleased with the result of my You'll Do, and thank Isabel again for allowing me to participate in the test knit. And with that, I also participated in the group that was running on Ravelry for the test knit, and that's something that I've been really bad at as well so far. When it's the mystery knit-alongs, for example, I have tried to participate in those groups and I never quite pull it off. But in this case, I made a point of checking in, sharing my progress, and it was lovely. It was really nice. So if you've never tried anything like that, I can definitely recommend it. So that takes me to December, last month of the year, and I'm a little bit in limbo. I haven't quite decided what my next project is going to be, although I'm very taken with the idea of knitting a big old jumper in linen held together with cumulus. I've got more of this nice dark purple color, which of course is very close to the blackcurrant color in the linen that we just introduced very recently, and of which you'll see a little bit in the next section as well. So maybe I'll be knitting some blackcurrant over Christmas. The jury is out, because the other thing I'm very keen to do is to get started on a crocheted blanket. I haven't actually bought the yarn for it yet, and I'm teetering on whether I will or won't, because starting a blanket now will just come weeks before I actually go and start a course that has to do with crocheting blankets and lots of color work. So maybe I should park the blanket for now, start the jumper over Christmas, and then get into crocheting a blanket in January. I'm not sure yet. I'm trying to convince myself here. Let me know what you think. Anyway, that was my yarn in my year in knits and crochets. I hope you like the overview, and let me know what you think of it all, and I'll see you again on the other side, and with my knitting share with you what I've done over the Christmas and New Year period. Here comes the last section of the last episode of 2023. Enjoy Layercake. Shirts, and especially dark shirts. I thought I'd start where I kind of left off last time, with my long black skirt on, my long black panel skirt and the black shirt. And let's try and dress that up a little bit with more than just a shawl. Here it comes. A key thing that one of these black outfits, one of these black base layers almost, gives you is a wonderful canvas to play on top of with pieces that you would like to stand out. So by putting on this Mercury festive duster, short duster, over the top of the shirt and skirt, I create a real focal point on the duster itself with its contrasting colors. Of course, I could put the lighter color on as well. Same thing would happen. The black outfit forms a backdrop, forms a canvas for the duster to shine. But of course, when you look at the detail, there's more going on. The length of the sleeves is such that I can fold over the cuffs of the shirt to create another little focal point there, another little accent there, or just leave them turned down. Of course, that's another possibility. And the length and the sweep of the shirt and the duster are coordinated such that together they look really combined, really coordinated. I mean, there is logic behind how these sweeps work together and how they kind of come together in the middle back. So, starting with a short duster, but of course there's lots of others that I can add with either more or less contrast. I'll cycle through a couple of them. Wonderful subtle contrast here with the blackcurrant smock. Of course, blackcurrant has got black in it. It is a red purple cross woven with black, so combining that with black looks beautiful, and it just brings out the depth that is the blackcurrant even more, but still adds a little bit of contrast. So it's not purely black on black, it's still a really dark and moody outfit, but not completely one color, and the red purple in the blackcurrant forms just enough contrast to make the smock stand out. Let's go for a little bit more contrast. The smock in the large new check, striking but not loud. There's still plenty of dark in here to tone very nicely with the black outfit underneath, but obviously more contrast. Let's add some more light. without changing the black shirt. High-lows in the black gingham. So there's some black in them, but of course lots of neutral undyed linen as well, which of course picks up the undyed linen that's in the large new check smock, but still with the black shirt. And for those of you who have been brought up with the idea that the colors on top need to be lighter than the colors at the bottom, as you can see, that's not the case here, and it looks like a really good outfit. Let's see if we can take that a step further still. Many of you may think of the love top and love tunic as pieces to layer underneath your other layer cakes, but of course they can form a beautiful overpiece as well. Here is the sparkle love tunic in a size 1, which I'm wearing over the top of the black shirt that I already had on, which is a size 2. And it just shows you the roominess of the dolman sleeves around the shoulders. It doesn't look bunched up at all anywhere. And at the back, you can see that the love tunic and shirt are cut so that they mirror each other's sweep at the back. Whereas at the front, the love tunic is just slightly longer than the shirt. The shirt has got slight more dramatic sweep and a bigger A-line than the tunic, because we wanted to make the tunic so versatile that it can be worn over or under pieces without ever worrying about the fabric bunching up. So the shirt has got a bit more sweep on it than the tunic does. But you can see that layered over the top of each other, they look fantastic. Now, if you think, yeah, I like this outfit, but black is just not for me, it's a bit too harsh. And, you know, the outfit in totality is great, but not with the black next to my face, then consider the charcoal gray. I'll show you. Charcoal gray shirt. This one is a size 1, so slightly neater on me underneath my love tunic. Again, can go with cuffs up or down. But the main thing that I wanted to illustrate here is the slight softerness, the slightly more softness of the grey, the charcoal grey, against the other colours and against my skin, rather than the slightly harsher contrast of the black. And of course, if you are a spring or autumn, then you might find those the black, the contrast with the black, just too much. And then a charcoal is a wonderful alternative. But if you still find this too dark, let's go lighter still, because we still have other shirt colors as well. And I want to show you some of them in combination with these outfits. Subtle and subtle shimmer. This is the natural undyed shirt, again in a size 1, with the love tunic over the top. You can see that the love tunic looks slightly lighter than the shirt. That's purely because of the silver thread that's been woven through the undyed linen. But lovely subtle, lovely neutral, but with that little bit of silver sparkle, really festive. So you can see the impact of just changing that shirt color. Now, if you say, I like contrast, but why does it have to be light and dark? It doesn't have to be. I'll show you one more. Of course, you can create contrast by going light. So here is a white shirt worn with that same outfit and bringing in a freshness and a lightness and a bit of contrast without going into the darks. So let's keep going. I've got more to show you. And it's not all about, of course, the silver sparkle top. It's more about the shirts and how you can combine them with your outfits and how you can create really nice focal points and contrasts, or just a backdrop for the rest of your outfit to shine. Let's bring on the next one. I just wanted to show you one more white shirt, and it's really to emphasize the way they are cut and the way we've styled their shaping. And that is so that, like with so many other layer cakes, you can play around with their sizes. You can size them up and down without feeling swamped by them. This is a size 3. So you can see when I'm spreading out like this, then it is cut quite a lot larger than the size 1 that I was wearing before, but it is cut and shaped in such a way that even if you wear it on a smaller frame, or for example, if you want the roominess of the size 3 because of the size of your bust, for example, but your shoulders are not the widest and you're worried that it's all going to look too droopy, it's not the case. Look, it ends up just sitting and shaping around you very nicely without it looking too big here and then too tight there and whatever. It is shaped such that you can play with those sizes. So depending on what normal layer cake size you wear, you could decide to size up for your shirt and make it look more like, it's almost like a painting smock, you know, just nice and oversized, and wear it like that. Wear it as an overshirt rather than an undershirt. So let's bring in some other colors and let's bring back the charcoal because I want to show you a little bit more of that. It's only been in the picture once. And of course, it's one of the new colors, so I want to play with it a little bit more. Here it comes. The charcoal shirt, worn very plainly and very simply with a bitter lime pair of palazzos. These are the extra large palazzos in the long length, so they're lovely and roomy on me, which is quite pleasant with the size of my bum. And the shirt is a size 1. And you can really see that there's enough contrast of colors in this outfit to emphasize the sweep of the shirt. It's very simple lines. I can then create a little bit of interest by rolling up the cuffs or just leave them plain and simple. Add a little scarfy or maybe a hand knit and outfit finished. But even without anything else, letting the styling and the shaping of the shirt do the talking here and allowing that garment shape and color to shine is a great way of keeping your outfit very simple and very stylish. Let's do some layer caking though. We've got to layer this baby. We don't have to, as I just showed you, but it's fun too. Here it comes. It had to be done. 2 shirts on top of each other. Why not? Then bringing out those contrasts with the collar and the cuffs. These are both size 1 shirts, one on top of the other. Lovely extra layer. Of course, you trap a little bit of air in between, so it makes it a lot warmer, but also just the interest. It turns it into a different outfit. And then I can turn these 2 around and wear the grey on top of the chartreuse and then have the chartreuse bits popping to complement my bitter lime trousers. Like, it's definitely something to keep in mind. And of course, it's just like with the love top and love tunic, layering them on top of other garments rather than underneath goes for the shirt as well, including layering it on top of itself. Let's bring back those 2 smocks again to show you how they look with an outfit like this. There is just enough yellowish tones in the colors that are woven into the large new check to be able to complement it with other yellow tones in the spectrum, like the bitter lime, which of course has got the yellow and the green, and the chartreuse, which is yellowy green as well, to work well. So although if you look in any light at this smock, the yellowest bits are the undyed linen, which of course has got a little bit of yellow in that beige color. There's enough shooting it through the other colors to bring in enough yellow to wear it with colors like this. I love these kind of contrasts. I love how the bitter lime and the chartreuse end up exciting this smock even further. And of course the grey, which is in there, and it's a really interesting outfit as a result, and lovely and warm because I'm wearing 2 shirts and a smock. Like I said, the shirts are a size 1, The smock is a size 2, but a size 1 smock would fit over the size 1 smock, the shirts as well, of course. That's how they're cut. And then the extra large trousers to sit very roomy and loose on me, which is a look that I am just still besotted with. So, the blackcurrant smock, just to show you the contrast and how it compares to something lighter like this. Blackcurrant smock, still with the double shirts. Now, if I try and, I think blackcurrant and both chartreuse and bitter lime are just stunning together. Of course, they are opposite ends of the color wheel, which makes them exciting to be worn together. If I tuck in this gray collar, rather than making it stand out, and show a bit more of the chartreuse around my neck and the top of the smock rather than just the dark gray, then you can see that that still creates an interest. There's still something going on here, but the dark gray doesn't dominate quite as much. I can, of course, do the same thing here, toning down the presence of the dark gray in the outfit without it disappearing altogether. Let's keep going with the blackcurrant. I want to roll now. Blackcurrant baggies and blackcurrant smock, and then that chartreuse shirt. Lovely combination. We're, just for your information, we're pretty much out of the blackcurrant fabric. I think we may have enough for 1 or 2 more garments, but that's it. I'm ordering more of it, but because we're going to be heading, once we're into the new year, once we're heading into springtime, so it's coming back in the spring, but in the lighter version of the linen. So if you want anything in the heavier linen and blackcurrant, be very quick, shoot me a message, let me know what you want, and I'll see what I can do. One more outfit, one more combination that I want to show you with this blackcurrant. Here it comes. The blue striped shirt. Especially picked it to show you in combination with the blackcurrant because it really emphasizes how close the blackcurrant is, because of it being so dark, to being a neutral. And as one of the neutrals, one of the classic neutral colors, which we normally associate with black and navy and dark gray and what have you, this is so close that you can wear it with lots of colors that you would not necessarily think of first. A stripe like this is normally really associated with the navies of this world and, you know, a more kind of aquatic, kind of sailory, sail-like, boat-like, water-like outfit. But what about combining it like this with this beautiful dark aubergine? I'll take the smock off as well, just to show you the combination with the baggies, and again allowing that shirt shape to shine by wearing it very simply just on top of a pair of trousers. Here it is, size 1 shirt, long large baggies in the blackcurrant. Lovely simple outfit, plenty of opportunity to dress it up or down, or just wear it simply and let that shirt shape shine. I hope I've inspired you with the shirts. If you have any questions, feedback, of course, always welcome. Meanwhile, this is the last podcast before the festive break. I'm going to skip 2 weeks, a newsletter week and a podcast week, and I'll be back with a newsletter in the new year. So I'm wishing you a wonderful end of your year. Hopefully a restful festive period, not too much stress, and I'll see you on the other side. See you soon.